You know that feeling when you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., heart racing, mind spinning, and you keep telling yourself to just calm down, but the harder you try to calm down, the more anxious you become. It's like your brain is working against you, isn't it? Here's something that might surprise you. That struggle you're having with anxiety, you're not broken, you're not weak. You're just caught in what I call the anxiety paradox. And once you understand this invisible trap, everything changes. Picture this. You're walking through quicksand. Your natural instinct is to struggle, to fight, to get out as fast as possible. But quicksand has a cruel rule. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. Anxiety works exactly the same way. The more you fight against those uncomfortable feelings, the stronger they become. Most people spend years trying to escape anxiety through 3 common mistakes. And here's the thing. These mistakes seem logical. They feel like the right thing to do. That's what makes them so dangerous. The first mistake is what I call the escape trap. Every time you feel that familiar tightness in your chest, that racing heart, those spiraling thoughts, your brain screams one word: run, avoid the situation, cancel the meeting, stay home, skip the social event. But here's what happens. Each time you run from discomfort, you're teaching your brain that these feelings are genuinely dangerous. You're reinforcing the very pattern that keeps you stuck. Your comfort zone shrinks a little more each time. Think about it. When was the last time avoiding something made you feel stronger? When did running away from a challenge increase your confidence? It doesn't. It does the opposite. The second mistake is the control illusion. You try to manage every thought, every feeling, every physical sensation. You monitor your heart rate. You analyze every worry. You create elaborate mental strategies to stay calm. But here's the brutal truth. The more attention you give to controlling anxiety, the more power you give it over your life. It's like trying to fall asleep by thinking about falling asleep. The effort defeats itself. Your brain interprets this constant monitoring as proof that something is wrong. And when your brain thinks something is wrong, what does it do? It creates more anxiety to keep you alert and ready for danger. The third mistake is the positive thinking trap. Someone tells you to just think happy thoughts. Replace negative thoughts with positive ones. Focus on the good stuff. Sounds reasonable, right? Wrong. When you try to force positive thoughts over genuine anxiety, you're essentially putting a Band-Aid over a deep wound. Those suppressed thoughts don't disappear. They build pressure underground like a volcano waiting to erupt. Research shows that thought suppression, the attempt to not think certain thoughts, actually increases the frequency and intensity of those very thoughts. It's called the rebound effect. The harder you try not to think about something, the more it occupies your mind. So if fighting anxiety makes it worse, if controlling it gives it more power, and if positive thinking backfires, what's the answer? Here's the first technique that changes everything. It's called the acceptance anchor. Instead of fighting the anxiety, you're going to acknowledge it, like an old acquaintance you didn't invite but who showed up anyway. When you feel anxiety rising, instead of saying, "I need to calm down" or "this shouldn't be happening," try this simple phrase: "I notice I'm feeling anxious right now, and that's okay." That's it. No fighting, no fixing, just noticing. You're not giving up or being passive, you're being strategic. You're removing the fuel that anxiety feeds on, which is your resistance to it.
The second technique is called graduated exposure, but I like to call it making friends with discomfort. Instead of avoiding situations that make you anxious, you're going to approach them in small, manageable steps. If public speaking terrifies you, don't start with a TED Talk. Start by speaking up once in a small meeting. If social situations drain you, don't force yourself to attend a big party. Start with coffee with one person you trust. The key is this: you're not trying to eliminate the anxiety. You're teaching your nervous system that you can handle discomfort without it being dangerous. Each small step builds what psychologists call distress tolerance, your capacity to sit with uncomfortable feelings without needing to escape them. Here's what happens when you practice these techniques. Your brain starts learning a new pattern. Anxiety shows up, you acknowledge it without fighting, you stay present in the situation, and nothing terrible happens. Over time, your brain stops treating anxiety as an emergency. This doesn't mean you'll never feel anxious again. Anxiety is part of being human. But you'll stop being anxious about being anxious. You'll stop living in fear of your own emotions. Now, let me share something from ancient wisdom that connects perfectly to this modern understanding. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said something profound over 2,000 years ago. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. But here's the deeper truth hidden in those words. He wasn't talking about forcing positive reactions. He was talking about the space between what happens and how you respond. That space is where your freedom lives. When anxiety shows up, you have that same space. You can't always control the feeling, but you can choose your relationship with it. You can choose not to add suffering on top of pain. Think about physical pain for a moment. If you cut your finger, it hurts. That's pain. But if you spend the next hour worrying about infection, catastrophizing about what might happen, fighting against the discomfort, that's suffering.
And suffering is optional. Anxiety works the same way. The uncomfortable sensations, the racing thoughts, the physical symptoms, that's the pain part. But the story you tell yourself about those feelings, the resistance you create, the fear of the fear itself, that's the suffering part. Here's what most people don't realize. Your brain has an ancient alarm system designed to keep you alive. It's called the amygdala, and it hasn't updated its software in thousands of years. It still thinks you're living in caves, running from predators. So when you face a work presentation, your amygdala treats it like a life or death situation. When you walk into a social gathering, it scans for threats like you're entering enemy territory. This isn't a bug in your system. It's a feature that kept your ancestors alive. But here's the problem. In our modern world, most of the things that trigger this alarm system aren't actually dangerous. They're just uncomfortable. Your brain can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. It responds to both with the same intensity. This is why understanding the difference between danger and discomfort is so crucial. Danger requires action. Discomfort requires acceptance. When you treat discomfort like danger, you stay trapped in the anxiety cycle. Let me give you a practical example. You're about to give a presentation at work. Your heart starts racing. Your palms get sweaty. Your mind goes blank. The old approach would be to interpret these signals as evidence that something is wrong, that you're not ready, that you should find a way out. But what if you reframed it? What if you recognize these sensations as your body preparing you for something important? What if instead of fighting these feelings, you said, "My body is getting ready to help me perform. This energy is available to me." Athletes understand this. They don't try to eliminate pregame nerves. They channel that energy into performance.
They've learned to interpret arousal as readiness, not danger. The third technique I want to share builds on this understanding. It's called the body wisdom approach. Instead of trying to calm your nervous system down, you're going to listen to what it's trying to tell you. When you feel anxiety in your body, pause for a moment. Where do you feel it? Is it in your chest? Your stomach? Your shoulders? Don't try to change it. Just notice it with curious attention, like a scientist observing an interesting phenomenon. Then ask yourself this question. What is this feeling trying to protect me from? Maybe it's warning you to prepare better. Maybe it's highlighting something that matters to you. Maybe it's just old programming running in the background. Most of the time, when you actually listen to anxiety instead of fighting it, you realize it's not as threatening as you thought. It's often just your inner alarm system being a little too sensitive, like a smoke detector that goes off when you burn toast. Here's something beautiful that happens when you stop seeing anxiety as the enemy. You start seeing it as information. Anxiety often shows up around things that matter to you. It rarely appears when you're doing something you don't care about. If you never felt nervous before important conversations, It might mean you don't care about the relationship. If you never felt anxious before big opportunities, it might mean you're not pushing yourself to grow. Sometimes, anxiety is just love in disguise. Love for the outcome, love for the people involved, love for your own growth. This doesn't mean you should welcome suffering or seek out anxiety. It means you can stop adding extra layers of suffering by fighting against natural human experiences. The ancient Stoics had a beautiful concept called amor fati, love of fate. They practiced accepting not just the good things that happened to them, but everything that happened to them.
Even the difficult things, even the uncomfortable emotions. They understood something we're just rediscovering in modern psychology. Resistance creates persistence. What you fight against grows stronger. What you accept and work with transforms. So here's your invitation for the next week. Instead of trying to feel better, try to feel whatever you're feeling with more acceptance. Instead of avoiding discomfort, practice sitting with it for just a few moments longer than usual. Notice what happens when you stop treating your emotions like problems to be solved and start treating them like weather to be experienced. Storms pass. Clouds move. Nothing lasts forever, including the discomfort you're feeling right now. Remember, you don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to eliminate all anxiety from your life. You just have to stop making it worse by fighting against it. That alone will change everything. What would it feel like to trust that you can handle whatever emotions show up? What would it feel like to stop being afraid of your own inner experience? Maybe the peace you're looking for isn't found by eliminating anxiety. Maybe it's found by changing your relationship with it. Try this tonight. When you notice anxiety creeping in, instead of reaching for your phone, instead of trying to distract yourself, just sit with it for 60 seconds. Breathe. Notice. Accept. And see what happens when you stop running from yourself. Your anxiety isn't your enemy. It's just a part of you that's trying to help, even if it's a little overzealous sometimes. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what you need to hear today.